Mind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
So we've still been doing the same thing. Lots of deals in the pipeline, lots of stuff we're locking up, lots of stuff we're looking at. So congrats to everybody that's been submitting deals. Yeah, we're really cooking now. Things are starting to move. I'm seeing a lot of buyers coming back sellers coming back after months and months of first contact. So I know you reach out, you get a hold of people, and then you get frustrated because you're like, man, they ghosted me. The guy wants way too much. And of course, when you're trying to get a deal, especially when there's a lot of profit involved, you get emotionally attached. So when a seller ghosts you, you're like, dang it, that was going to be a big deal. But if their price is crazy, all your job is to make contact, make a friend, and say, I'll revisit you in the future. So we had one in April that we talked to, and they wanted a bit higher price than we were willing to pay. We had a little quick arm wrestling match, and we said, no, we're going to go ahead and we'll let you know something. And they said, finally, we thought we agreed on the price because we made them a lower offer. And then right before they accepted it, they said, you know what, we're just going to hang on to it. Right. So it seemed like a big letdown. But now come, I don't know what this is, 6 months later or something, 7 months later, we got that random text message. Are you still interested in the property? So that's kind of the dream scenario is for you to have the sellers come back asking for you to help, because that means they've been trying to work that property for 6 or 7 months and they haven't been able to move it. Right. So that puts you in the driver's seat to say, hey, I can still help get this done, but now we're going to do it on my terms. Right. And the market's not as hot as it was when we talked 6 months ago. So now the price is going to change a little bit. So cool conversations to have, cool positioning. I think Daniel and myself can cover positioning tonight, but that's what I wanted to talk about. If you're trying to move these types of deals, you're thinking in terms of like, well, I need to have, right now we're working on one. We're trying to make $6 to $7 million on it. The earnest money deposit, $650,000. Right. So if you're on this call and you're thinking, well, I don't have $650,000 to put down to even take an attempt at a deal like that. But being in this group, you do have access to that type of capital. But you don't even need that much capital on most of these deals, because what are we really doing here? We're tying up multi-million-dollar properties with a sheet of paper. Right. So to me, that's a modern day gold rush. Is when you can tie up a property that's worth $1 million, $2 million, $3 million with a 3-cent sheet of paper, right? And that's exactly what we're doing here. So if the seller's not ready to sell, like I said, make a friend, keep them in your pipeline, keep them close, make sure your machine is automatically following up with them, because 6 months from now, a year from now, you're going to have talked to hundreds, possibly thousands of sellers, and it's pretty easy to lose track of all this stuff. So I just kind of want to talk about that today. The sellers will come back if you're doing the work, making the contacts, staying in front of them. And yeah, like I said, possibly you could tie up something very, very large with a lot of upside for little to no money out of pocket. And if you do happen to need to dig into your pocket, well, you got us. You got this group. Anything you want to cover, Daniel?
Yes, I do want to cover something. So I want to start off with me and Anthony talk about we did a call recording about positioning yourselves to win. And I think a lot of people here, they feel like they're doing all the right things, but nothing isn't happening. So I want to tell you a story of my first deal, because it took me 7 months to get my first deal. And I feel like it wasn't lack of trying. I feel like it was like a lack of doing the necessary things. Like I wanted my first deal to get going, but I wasn't doing the necessary things to succeed. So I had another business at the time before I actually got full-time into real estate, but I didn't devote enough resources. And I think a lot of people, they struggle with what do you really do to succeed? And a lot of it is your lead flow. A lot of people struggle with lead flow. Like what does it actually take to get a seller on the phone and motivate a seller on the phone? How many follow-ups does it take to convert that seller into a contract? Like what is the actual work that's going to produce a lead and a deal? Is this going to pay me? So one of the things I struggled early on with, I thought I was doing a lot of good things, and it wasn't really my style. I mean, I locked up probably like 3-4 properties. I probably went to too many seller appointments than I should have, person to person with unmotivated sellers. I didn't vet them properly. I maybe didn't have that conversation up front of what we're actually going to do. One of the deals that fell through on my side, they had an underlying lien that it blew up the deal right at the closing table. And mind you, I evicted the tenant, trashed out the property, took it to closing, and then the deal blew up because the title company didn't do a title search, and it blew up the deal. So like, there's a lot of things that I could have asked that in hindsight that could have made the deal go smoother. But there's a lot of things that you're gonna like waste a lot of time doing certain things that you think are worth the time, but maybe not be for you. So I think a lot of people struggle with this. Like Anthony, we did a call earlier today, me and Anthony, and he was talking about like he doesn't like having appointments on him because he needs to be flexible with these sellers, because sometimes sellers. What did the seller ask you today, Anthony? Or you have to do later this week?
If I could pick her up and take her to go look at a property. So I talked to a seller today. She said that she said, what if I put down $20,000? So I gave her some numbers. This is a really, really old lady. I mean, I could hardly understand her. I want to guess she's probably like 90. And she's speaking Spanish. And she said, what if I put down 20,000? I said, yeah, that's about what average of, the down payment that we're looking for. And she was like, how much is the payment? How much is the interest? I gave her the payment. She's like, what can I do to bring the payment down? And I said, well, the payment's the payment. I can't help you with that. I said, you can put more down if you want. And she was like, okay. What if I put down 40? I was like, I redid the math. And I'm like, okay, here's your payment. She goes, what if I put down 50? And I gave her another payment. And she goes, what if I put down 70? And I was like, how much money do you have? Like, exactly what are you trying to accomplish? And she's like, I want to move my kids onto some property, and I want them to be able to build a house or bring on a mobile home. So I want something that's unrestricted, and I want us all to live on the same property. And I was like, well, how much cash do you have access to? She was like, well, we got some money. She said, my husband died and we have some money. She's like, but the most I want to put down is 70,000. I was like, interesting. Okay. So she was trying to get her payment down. I said, look, why don't you do this? I said, why don't you buy 20 acres? I give you 20 acres for 300,000. I said, you put $70,000 down, and then I'll help you remarket 10 of those acres so that you can get a monthly payment coming in that will almost or cover all of your monthly payment for your other 10 acres. That way you have your 10 acres covered for zero. And she was like, can you explain that to me again? And she's like, I'm going to write this stuff down so I can talk to my kids about it. So we stayed on the phone for about an hour. But yeah, randomly, none of her kids can make it to the showing tomorrow at 11. We have a bunch of buyers coming in at 11 to look at the property. So she just asked me, she was like, is there any way you could pick me up tomorrow and take me to the property? And I looked at where she's at. She's far. She's over by Castroville where we're working those other 122 acres. And I'm thinking about it, like, what do I really have to lose if I give up an extra hour of driving time? And this lady put $70,000 down on this property. All I need is $50,000 down to close on this property. I already have a private lender that's going to put the rest. So if this lady puts down 70 grand, just this one buyer, right? And we have a pool of buyers meeting us tomorrow at the property. So by the time I get to the closing table, I'll use her 50,000 to close, stick 20 in my pocket before I even get the deal started. Right. So again, this is just like having those conversations, pushing out these properties, having these sellers lined up, but also remaining flexible, because if I had my day booked down tomorrow and buckled down so tight, like I got to be somewhere at 9, I got to be somewhere at 10, I got to be somewhere at 10:30, and then I got to get to the property at 11. Guess what? I got nothing on the calendar tomorrow. Right. Yeah. So I'm going to go pick her up. I'm going to drive the extra hour. I'm going to go pick her up, and I'm going to take her to go show the property. Worst case, she doesn't buy. Right. But again, the upside is that I get into this property with zero down. And not only that, I get paid $20,000 at closing just from this one buyer. And we have a handful of other buyers that are going to go to the property to meet us too. And I've asked everybody for $20,000 down.
So that goes back to my story, is like, is what you're setting aside for your type of trend. Like Anthony has his own sales side, so he's actually he needs that flexibility. Whereas me, I probably need appointments booked on me. So I'm like the opposite of Anthony, where like I have a calendar, I have a schedule, I time block. I do a lot of the stuff where Anthony needs to be flexible to do stuff like that to take sellers. So it's understanding your role and what you need to do to be productive. And there's two different sides of this. And there might be another side that we're not even thinking of that you might have to put yourself in a box. But what Anthony does is what I don't do. And what I do, he doesn't do. So it's understanding that there's different ways to be productive depending on what depending on what your end goal is. So you need to understand like there's different types of productivity depending on what hat you're wearing that day. And that I think it kind of boils down to like, depending on what hat you're wearing that day, are you going to be productive in that role? So a lot of solopreneurs, and a lot of people, I was a solopreneur for a long time, not knocking it in any way. You have to wear all these different hats. You have to switch out hats all the time, sometimes even midday. You have to do payroll, and you have to do accounting, you have to do sales calls during peak hours. You have to go to lunch with the client or stuff like that. So there's a lot of things you have to put on these different sales hats, and you have to like juggle what's important at what time. So there's a lot that comes into like, are you really putting your resources that you do have out there in a certain way to produce certain results? So I think we had Ruben Torres, who has a 9-to-5. I think he's in the room. I saw him hop in earlier. I don't know if he's here or not. But Ruben Torres, he has a 9-to-5 and he's still producing leads. He's leveraging the time he does have to still produce and be active. So if you have a 9-to-5, you work another job, you might be flipping a house, you might be doing construction, you might be doing whatever thing you're doing. You have to manage your ability to still be productive in other facets. So like me and Anthony joke around all the time is that like, and this is another thing too, where like people are like, oh, I work 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. And I'm like, man, entrepreneurship, I work like 6 to 7. And it's just sporadic at all different times because we're doing different things at different times. I was doing payroll last night at like midnight, and it was just one of those things, the kids are already in bed and I was working on stuff on the computer and I'm doing payroll. So it's different. And Anthony doesn't have to check on me on for that because he knows that's my responsibility. So it's not something that he has to do, but I know that I'm most productive to do payroll is probably late at night. That's why I do a lot of my computer work. So depending on your availability, what you're balancing, I have kids, Anthony has kids, Anthony goes to the gym. I need to make time to go to the gym. So it's like a balancing act of all your responsibilities and the results you actually want to produce. We talked about this with like Ryan Pineda like a week and a half ago, and we asked him like what's the work-life balance? And he's like, the work-life balance is literally balancing everything at once because your family is important, your health is important, and the job of producing results is important too. So it's understanding that you have to well balance yourself and position yourself to produce with the time you allot to produce.
Talk about partnerships, man, and leverage, right? So we're talking about positioning, leverage. So a lot of people ask us, right? Just recently, somebody asked us, as they said, we were presenting for a group last night that has 40,000 members, and somebody in the comments asked, "What's in it for you guys? Like, why are y'all teaching us this?" Right? Why in the heck are we on here teaching everybody in this room what we know for a minimal amount of cash? And it's about leveraging other people's time and energy. Right. So we know what to do, but we only have so many hours in a day. Right. And then also like JVing deals, splitting deals. Like if we did one deal a month or one deal every other month for the rest of our lives, like we're sitting okay. Like we're doing pretty damn good. I'm a little micro guru status based on the numbers that we can pull with a one deal a month or one deal every other month. But our intention is to leverage our time and energy so that we can do a deal with everybody in this room. And what if we did 2 with everybody in this room, or 5 or 10 or 50? Right. Can you see how the numbers get exponential? So if you're trying to do everything yourself, if you're trying to wear all the hats, I mean, there's a time for that, right? But if you're not out there telling people what you're doing, getting people interested in what you're doing doing a lot of work that you don't have to, right? And I think this is something that I think about a lot is I know there's somebody in this room right now that's doing everything. They're doing all their own marketing. They're stuffing all their own envelopes. They're combing through all of their own text messages. They're skipping all of their own data, and you're doing whatever you have to do, right? But if you're doing 20 different jobs, when all it takes is for you to just post on Facebook and say, hey, I'm trying to start investing in multi-million-dollar lots and I need somebody to help me. If you don't have cash to invest, if you have a couple of hours to invest, I would like to chat with you. And bam, now there's 2 of you.
So here's the crazy thing. So me and Anthony, we're partners, right? We both do 2 different things. But check this out. We also have help on our side to do what we have. So I have employees, Anthony has employees. But we also have family. Anthony, what does your family do for you in your business? And I'll answer my side. This is funny.
Everything really. So I have a uncle that he's like my labor force. I have a gentleman that's been living rent free on one of my commercial properties for like 2.5 years. He's never given me a dime. And he is my labor force as well. So he'll move furniture, cut grass, do whatever we have to do, like physical stuff with his truck. And then my sister's my main admin. So she runs paperwork. She's on all my accounts. She signs checks. She does anything and everything that I could do if I'm not present. So if I'm out of town for a week or two, she's me while I'm here, right? So sometimes she's dropping stuff off. She's mailing things off. She's writing checks.
She just had a newborn baby like 2 months ago.
Yeah, and then she's driving and closing a property like 2 or 3 days later. And of course, I tell her, like, don't work. She's like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. So she's a beast. She's been by my side for probably 6 or 7 years. She comes from corporate at Burlington Coat Factory in Ross. But yeah, she's just a workhorse. But she's my stunt double. So now there's 2 of me that can go out and do any activity that I could do on my own. And then my wife, of course, she's a stay-at-home mom. She probably has a harder job than all of us, and she's taking care of the kids all day. But she'll sit around and she'll do contracts. She went and mailed some stuff today, and she went and mailed some HiveMind gear. So it's like the people around me are providing the best support system that I have. And I think that's what allows me to cover a lot of ground. People ask me too all the time is like, how can you possibly do all the stuff that you're doing? But if it was just me, I'd probably die. I'd probably die like of a stroke or a heart attack or something. But I have an amazing support system around me that I've been able to leverage. And I don't know how else I would do everything I do without them.
All right, so that's his side. And mind you, his wife still takes care of the house and everything to do with the house. So my side, I have my VA team that help me with HiveMind and my production of all the content we produce. And then I have my wife. My wife literally helps out with the HiveMind apparel. So all the HiveMind apparel, the hats, the shirts, even that you're wearing right now, that's all my wife. So like there's a lot that goes into what we do that's behind the scenes, that's not front end, that's still passed off even to other people to help us get the results we want. So like when a lot of people look at us, like we're running pretty small between Anthony and I, but there's a lot of outside resources that are just helping out. They're helping out. They see the mission, they understand what we're building, and they're helping out in any way they can. So there's a lot of like, and this is like where me and Anthony and our families literally are helping build the HiveMind. Our families are. I mean, like Anthony's wife, his sister, my wife, and I'm hoping to bring in my brothers into this soon as we get bigger. But it's one of those things where like we're finding any help we can get to help contribute to the machine, because it's a heavy load to bury, and there's so much that needs to get done. I tell people all the time, like oh, so what do you do for work? I'm like, I do everything. I literally do everything. Like I hand off responsibility, but if I have a person in place that can do it, they do it. But if there's no one in there to do it, I'm there doing it. And it's I told my main VA, I was like, I have to know more than you, and I know more than you in the system. It's not that I can't do it; it's I need you to do it because I have so many other things going on. And this is where like we did a podcast with Chad Doherty today, and we produced like 300 episodes of the podcast. We're about to hit 300 episodes, and we've done weekly calls for a year and a half now. Like a lot, there's so much time allotted and put into you guys as a whole, into you to put you towards the mission and to put you on and understand what you're doing, because there's a grander goal ahead of us, you know. So we have to allocate time to put into this call right here. So I was talking to before you guys hopped in here, I was talking to my wife. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have a call right now. She's like, why do you have a call right now? I'm like, I have a call every Tuesday around this time. She's like, why every Tuesday? I'm like, I don't know. It's just, I'm here, you know? So it's one of those things, like we laugh about it, but like, it's odd an hour. It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast. It's 8 p.m. where Anthony is at, and it's 6 p.m. where I'm at. But we're all here together right now, here, understanding the mission and putting forth effort. So like, who's on our real estate team, Anthony?
As far as
acquisitions and dispo,
our main people is Jasmine. She's the one that fields the CRM 24/7. So we're gonna have a call about this, how we're using HiveMind for dispositions, like to sell the properties. And then my nephew Gabriel handles inbound. So when people come through one of our website forums and say, hey, I have a property I need to sell, my nephew grabs those. So I think those are our main 2 people that are in the background running the machine. They don't do contract. They don't necessarily close. Gabriel will call me and tee me up and say, hey, here's a property. Here's what I think it's worth. I think this guy's ready to dance. You want to talk to him? Yep, tell him I'll call him at 4. So that's pretty much the whole entire team right there.
That's our whole team for everything we do. Literally. Like we're
on the real estate side.
We're completely small. Like everything that we do is like 10 people.
Yep.
Like
so I wanted to talk about like resources, right? We talked about we're gonna do a whole call about leverage, but just like resources, right? So think of time as an increment or a unit of cash, of capital, right? So if you have less cash, you probably have more time to invest into something, right? So think of your time as capital. And then if you have more capital, so most of the time you're more pressed for time, right? Because you have a lot of things going on. You're moving a lot of different moving parts. Anybody that's in real estate is probably running a pretty cash hungry business. So your cash comes in and it goes right back out. So if you don't have too much capital, you have more time, you can probably just get with Daniel and myself, right? And say, hey, I can text some people back. I can skip trace. There's something that you can do where you can plug into somebody else's system. It doesn't necessarily have to be ours. It could be anybody else's in this room. Somebody else on Facebook. Yep. Maybe you do have a little bit of capital. Maybe you say, hey, I can put aside $250 a month or $500 a month to try to generate some activity with you guys, right? So if you think about how do you spend your own time and energy and your own time and capital, but also, again, leveraging the time and capital of people that are already in your network. And it's not like you're taking something from them that they're not willing to give. But if you say, hey, I'm trying to freaking take down $1 million deal. I wish, if there was somebody on my Facebook who's interested in that, hit me up. Let's have a quick conversation. I'm happy to get on a call with those people. I'm sure Daniel will be. And we'll just kind of tell them what we're doing. And maybe they're willing to contribute, but maybe they're not. But you don't have to wait to close a deal to gather, some type of leverage. And that's something that I think a lot of people aren't thinking about or taking advantage of.
So one of the biggest things that I brought this up literally before this call, we had a text. You can check our stories maybe about 2 hours ago. Me and Anthony both posted it, but somebody that's paying for leads, they have less time, but more money. They put money into some PPC leads. So the reason why we manage everything that we do is because we're using inbound marketing. We have text going out, but it's all inbound once people respond, because our outbound really campaign is we select 1,000 people, throw them in a text campaign, and it just goes. And then we wait for a response. And then once they respond, we kind of separate in that bucket. And then we have one person on that to separate that bucket and move everybody where they need to go and set up calls with our sales team, depending on if it's a deal or not. So we like inbound marketing. We do not cold prospect. We do not do a lot of those things just because it's very time intensive. And me and Anthony, we like doing things the easiest way possible, even if it costs money. So one thing that we've been running for a while is PPC. So PPC is an inbound form of marketing. The leads come in hot, and it's just a matter of negotiating out the terms and the price point. But they already raised their hand. They're calling in. They filled out a web form. I want to sell my property. So those are people I like talking to. If 10 people called your phone in a week and they all told you they want to sell their property, there's probably a good chance you're probably going to get a contract that week if enough people call you in. So the reason why I mentioned this is that we had a testimonial come in. A guy messaged, he's been on our lead system for maybe like 2-3 weeks. He's gotten 5 leads and he's closing on 2 leads right now. One was a deal that the owner literally giving away for $500 that he's closing on. And then another one was 29 acres in Bastrop. Out of 5 leads that came in, he got 2 contracts, which is crazy. I think it's the best KPIs I've heard to date. It's even better than us.
We closed one from PPC. We just recently closed it. It was 80,000 profit. We're going to post the HUDs up. And then we have one that's supposed to close on December 23rd. That should be like 290,000 profit. And we had 0 into both of those deals. So that's the power of inbound marketing. I wanted to move on now to Mr. PJ that's on here. And I want him to talk a little bit about a deal that he's been working for a few months and how things have been progressing on his side. So do you want to give a little recap, PJ, about how you found the deal and then maybe the 5 seconds on what we talked to the agent about and then how things are going on your end now?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for giving me the floor. What's up, everyone? So originally this deal came to us. We were looking, me and my partners Jake and Ian, we're looking at on-market listings. And so we found this property. We did the comps in the area, figured it was a good deal, and got the motivation behind the condition and everything. we got on the phone, me and Anthony with the realtor. She pretty much gave us possession of the property, saying that if you guys, I'll let you guys bring in buyers and market it you guys yourself if you guys intend on buying the property in the end. And so from there, after we got the agent's permission, I started running a ghost ad on Facebook Marketplace in that area, saying, hey, who would buy tracts of 40 acres plus in this area? It has X, Y, and Z. And just waited in for those potential buyers. And so after boosting it a few times, after a few months of doing that, now we got an open house coming up this Saturday that we set up with the realtor. She's all cool with it. And we definitely have 4 very motivated people that I had from the beginning. I had them written down earlier on my list, and they returned and they said that they're ready and they're serious. They want to see the property. We got 3 more that said they're interested and they want to go to the open house as well. So we have about 7 people lined up for the open house this week to buy 40 plus acre tracts of this 220 acre property. And so just a lot of work, a lot of waiting around. We'll see. You can't stop. You got to keep pushing through, but I'm willing to put in the work because it's worth it.
Setting it up that way and running it that way, PJ's done everything right on this deal. I think it's a winner. It sounds like it's going to be 100% winner based on the price that we could buy it for, and then the amount of activity that's being generated on the buyer side.
Sweet. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys. This group, it means so much. Like, it means a lot. And so I encourage everyone that's hearing this. Like, I'm a man. I come from poverty, from the hood, man, and I'm doing this so that I can show my family and my people back home that anyone can do this. Any one of you guys can do this as well if you just stick to it and persevere.
That's it, man. That's a game. Congrats again, man. It's like, I hope that everybody in here understands this. Like, we're not flipping a 1-bedroom, 1-bath house and trying to get a check for $5,000 or $10,000. Daniel, myself, we're looking at $3 million profit on 3 deals.
Hey guys, if you would like to receive hot leads right to your cell phone in a text message, check out hiveleads.io and you can receive the same leads we've been receiving in our campaign for 3.5 years that's made us successful in the land game. Check us out.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the Skip Trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.onelistguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.
Virtual Flip Land, is that your brand that you're doing education with?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. I always like starting off with, how'd you end up in real estate? Because me, I kind of fell into it. What's your story?